Hit it.
Good evening. Hello. Welcome to the Arizona Psychedelic Society Monday Night Talk Series here at our favorite Meraki Kava Bar. Woo! Yeah. Thank you all for coming in this evening and spending your Monday night with us. Just wanted to take a few minutes for us to potentially get together collectively and ground our energy in this place and space. Alright, if everyone could just take a moment, plant your feet on the floor for just a few minutes, and let's just ground together, connect to Mother Earth, breathe in Father Sky. Everybody taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Fill yourself up, let it go. Nice long out breath, nice and slow and long. Again, everybody take another nice deep breath in through the nose. Fill yourself up all the way to the top. And then nice and let go. A little audible sound if you can. Soften the shoulders, soften the hips. Feel yourself sitting, seated, connected, rooted. Just want to take the opportunity to give gratitude to the great Creator, Mother Earth and Father Sky, for this beautiful opportunity to come together in ceremony as brothers and sisters in humanity and collectively coming together to educate ourselves and to build community and to honor one another in our life's journeys and our medicine journeys and this journey here together in this collective. I want to honor the 7 directions from the east, south, west, north, above, below, and within to ground us in this place and space, giving us direction, clarity, and also want to thank just those guardian ancestors just to hold this space for us this evening and watch over us, keep us safe from harm, and protect us, being mindful of our words, our thoughts, our actions, and being in coherence with our heart and feeling connected and feeling safe in this space. Thank you to all our medicine teachers, and thank you to our special guest this evening for taking the time and energy to bring forth his wisdom and his teachings. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you for this honor. Oh yes, thank you. Though I do see that most of us are familiar with the psychedelics group, but not everybody, I would say, is necessarily familiar with Ron Interpreter, who is our guest this evening, and he's come and spoken for us on a couple of occasions over the past 2 years since we started this talk series, and hopefully we're able to kind of keep changing it up a little bit. And with the work that he's doing more recently, and his connection also here with the Arizona Psychedelic Society. So I'll just give a little bit of an introduction for this evening. Let's see, Ron Interpreter, who's also known in the medicine community as Uncle Ron, a member of the Navajo Nation with ties to the San Carlos Apache and Yaqui. Ron brings decades of experience as an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and spiritual practitioner. He's the founder of Interpretive Solutions and creator of Beauty Within, a healing modality rooted in Navajo tradition and woven with Integrative Wellness practices. As a certified yoga instructor, intuitive guide, and entheogenic practitioner with Ayahuasca Sacrament Church, Ron serves in sacred tradition including Yaqui, Peyote, and Huachuma. This touch will talk on themes of Indigenous wisdom, spiritual discipline, personal transformation, and walking a path of medicine with integrity. So that's the intention for this evening. And particularly asking Ron to share tonight was really with the intention that it was going to be post ceremony in a way that the Arizona Psychedelic Society had actually made a request of Ron and his group maybe about 2 months ago to see if we could potentially pull together a leadership retreat, medicine retreat for our leadership team. Although it didn't come into full fruition, it really got the wheels going and started in that Ron and his team were able to offer 2 nights of ceremony to the community at large, and a few of us did end up attending his peyote ceremony for that first night. So really that was part of the intention of like bringing him in post-ceremony, which would have technically really been post our leadership retreat, but I felt like it would have given us a little bit more meat to chew on. And for me particularly, I've been wanting to work with Ron for the past maybe 3 years since I entered this plant medicine community. I met him several years ago when I was running with another tribe, and the woman at the time had taken me to one of Ron's circles where I sat in ceremony, not medicine ceremony, but just the community circle. What was it, Phoenix Rising, or what was the name of the group at that time?
Rising Brotherhood, I think.
Yeah, Rising Brotherhood, yep. So at that time there were some ongoing events and activities, and that's where I met Uncle Ron at the time. And since then I really have been wanting to sit in peyote ceremony in particular because that's closest to my Navajo ancestry in my recent lineage. And so Ron serves that medicine, and he also, oh, thank you. What was that? Was that an echo?
Echo!
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting better at my
I thought we were all
ABCs,
auditions. I don't know.
Working on it, sorry.
All in a non-ordinary state. Thank you, that's much better. Now I can actually hear myself too. Yes, so for quite a while I've been wanting to sit with Ron in peyote ceremony in particular, but even more so because he's Navajo, also was born and raised on the Navajo reservation, but he grew up a lot more closely in the Native American church. I'm not familiar with the Native American church. I grew up in a different traditional style of medicine work on the reservation, and so I don't know a lot about the Native American church, so even all of this has been just curiosity, even wanting to know a little bit more about my own tradition and ancestry work. And Ron and I have gotten together a couple times personally. He's helped me with even some of my own personal development and in bridging being biracial, being half Native and half white, and my own struggles in walking in this world. And Ron has been able to, kind of coach me and mentor me in some traditional ways, and actually integrating what it really means to be biracial in this new modern context. And so that kind of leads me into a little bit of his work too, and kind of where I am grateful in witnessing some of his work is, and where I have been taking my own work, is integrating Indigenous wisdom and teachings with modern modalities and philosophies that we've been taught for Western medicine, and so that's really kind of what I want to explore a little bit more this evening. One, with the perspective of now have participated in this peyote ceremony and seeing how he has woven his Navajo culture, our Navajo culture, into more of a modern way of holding ceremony, which is also unique and different too from our traditional ways. So it was beautiful to be able to finally see and participate in that practice and that perspective. And now I feel like I have a lot more questions to be able to maybe hopefully dig just a little bit more deeply. But first of all, the first kind of question that I was hoping that maybe we could explore and share a little bit more together is, can you share a little bit more with everybody your upbringing in the Native American church, and then how you have come to integrate it more with these more Western modalities?
Thank you. Yate, Anil, blessings to all of you on this beautiful evening. Thank you for coming out. The way that we grew up in all contexts. It doesn't matter if it was religious, if it was social, or if it was just day to day. It was instilled in us that life is a practice. You know, it's not something that you come into, it's something that is an extension of you. You are engaging in the process. It's the development of who you are as an individual. And that's a really important mindset to have when you're growing up, in a sense of identity. You know, you're engaging in the development of who you are. So whatever you're involved in, if it's ancestral ways, if it's ceremony, if it's simple conversations, if it's going to school, all of these are leading to the ultimate identity that you're looking to establish, which is a hikatli. So from the time that you're born, you are expected by a certain age in your like 60s going into your 70s, somewhere around there, that you are what they call a hatkatli. A hatkatli in English means singer. That you are destined, everybody, male and female, is destined to be a singer, or what we say, a medicine person, a medicine man or a medicine woman. It's not a crowning or an anointment of you based on your studies or based on, maybe life experiences specifically to a process of being ordained. Everyone in Navajo traditions and philosophy, everyone from the time that they're born is, in a sense, ordained to become a medicine person. That is your goal in life, is to be proficient in your own healing and in your own growth. That is your life's goal, is to be a medicine person. So in that context, in that mindset, different things have come into my life experiences when it comes to spiritual practice. One in particular is called the Native American Church. And the Native American Church is birthing out of a time when Native Americans here in the United States were looking to formalize or protect their religious rights and religious practice with using peyote. And so what they did was they, a gentleman by the name of Quanah Parker, Comanche Indian, went and established and incorporated a tax-exempt organization or a nonprofit, as we know today, into what is now the Native American Church, a religious organization. And at the time, Quanah Parker, this is probably like the early, like 1990s, somewhere around there, 30s, 40s, somewhere around there. He was a businessman. He was a Comanche person. He came from a lineage of ancestral ways, very ceremonial based. His dad was a medicine person, but also a warrior, a Comanche warrior. So he was the contemporary coming out of that, in a sense that he started going to school. He was required to go to school, what we know as K-12 or academics. And in that process of growing up, he understood that the United States had certain ways of incorporating or protecting businesses or protecting people's right to produce things. And he found out that nonprofits was one of those ways. And so he then incorporated the first Native American church at the time to protect the use of peyote medicines in the form of a religion. And what he did is he took two traditions, two ancestral ways. The first one is with his dad's side, the Comanche side, took all of the songs, took all of the theologies, the philosophies about where this medicine comes from. And so he brought that into the process. And then he looked at his mom's side of the family. His mom at the time was an English lady, and she was Christian. And so he brought in God consciousness or Christ consciousness, what we know as through the biblical traditions, into this process, and he then created the Native American Church. So the Native American Church is based on these two ancestral ways. And then over time, over decades, different tribes brought in their different songs, their different cultures and ancestral ways on the Native American side to add more or to tailor it to their communities. So now you have Navajos having Native American Church, you have Cherokees, you have Ojibwe, you have Lakota. All of them use this half of it to bring their cultures and traditions. However, they still maintain that God consciousness and Christ consciousness in the process. And so through this way, they have that's their way of prayer, right? Way of teaching and way of understanding how life is. And so how we grew up is we didn't necessarily get into the formalization of the church. My parents did the medicine out of just practicing life, right? If you're being a human being, you're not going to go and register with an organization and get bona fide by having a membership to learn how to be a human being. I mean, you could if you wanted to. In this case, if you go to Presbyterian, I'm going to get baptized to be a Presbyterian. I'm bona fide, I can go into that church. LDS with your traditions, I'm going to learn these ways and I'm going to be a bona fide member of the LDS. So all of these are formal ways in terms of how we would practice religion today. Native American Church is the same way. We would have Native Americans go to the church, get inducted, and become a member of the church. So now they're an official member of that church. Our family didn't do that. Our family just practiced the medicine. We didn't have to have a formal membership or connection to what they call chapters. So on the Navajo Nation, for example, it's a big culture, big community, specifically to Navajo culture on the reservation. And the reservation will then have maybe 3 or 4 or maybe even 15 different chapters, different areas within the Navajo Nation. And then people would register or connect to these different chapters of the Native American Church. And so you would have X number of chapters and X number of Native American Church. So depending on where you were living, you would then go to that chapter and you would be a part of that Native American church or that fireplace. They're called fireplaces. And our family, we didn't do that. We just practiced the medicine. We had our own way. We had roadmen come in and perform the medicine for us. However, our family, we just did it on our own. We didn't really have to have a formalization. We had our teepee ceremonies. We went with the own personal practice. And from that, that's how we learned the Peyote way traditions. There are times where we've gone to a teepee meeting, they call it teepee meetings. We would go to a teepee meeting and it's a formal gathering. This particular chapter is formalizing this peyote ceremony or a peyote meeting, and then we would attend that, and then we would follow their protocols. Then we would go to another chapter, and their protocols would be a little bit different. Then we go to another chapter, a little bit different. Now that's within the Navajo Nation. And then now we're going out of the Navajo Nation, and now we're going to a different tribe. Now we go to a different fireplace, and that tribe runs it completely different. So you'll have multiple chapters, and that's what we have today. Because of this religious right that was passed by the United States government, now you have Native Americans or different reservations, different tribes, having their own fireplace and having their own protocols. And each one of them are completely different from each other, but are grounded in this philosophy of Native American traditions and Christianity. So we just practice it. We didn't have to formalize ourselves in any way. So that's how we grew up. Now, to become a medicine person, it's a life practice. So we start really young. So we started at a very young age. So what we did was my aunts and my uncles would put us to work. like they'll say, there's a ceremony coming up this weekend, right? It's Tuesday. Ceremony's coming in this weekend. Azeh, Naharaj, Nan, Gij. Like it's coming. Ceremony's coming. The medicine is coming. Azeh, the medicine is coming, right? That's our word for medicine is Azeh, beauty. And then me and my brothers would say, oh man, that means we have to go to work. And we're little kids. They would put us to work. All right, let's go start chopping the woods. There's a certain way that the woods have to be chopped. So we would go into the forest, and literally we would have to bring these tall trees, hook it up to the horse, and then bring them out, and then we had to cut those tree trunks into certain sizes and certain widths, things like that. Then we had to clear the bark off. And then we would have to make sure that the teepee grounds are clean. Sometimes it's over grass, grass is overgrown. So we would have to go out there, and then we would have to clear that all out. So we were learning at a really young age. It was just every day. It's just an everyday experience. And we were told what to do, and so we did what we did. And that's how we grew up. And that creates the psychology and the emotional connection to that this is what it means to be a human being. So in today's time, and how it reflects in what I'm doing in terms of the church that I'm overseeing, is we tell that to our congregation, we tell that to our fellowship. Medicine is not something that you come into. It can be, if that's what you choose to. But once you take the medicine, it becomes a way of life. Whatever your intention is, it's becoming a human being. Whatever intention you came with to the ceremony isn't just to try to fix one thing in your life. If that's what you want, that's what you're going to fix. That's okay. But we try to encourage, when you come and you take the medicine, you are learning how to be a human being. It's one step towards becoming your own medicine person. It's one step closer to becoming a divine being. So that puts a different context in terms of why you're doing ceremony, right? So that's how we were growing up. That's the mindset that we have. It's just taking, it's our human responsibility. It's our own responsibility to be able to learn how to be a human being and develop ourselves to be the best person that we can possibly be, knowing that at a certain time we're going to be medicine people. So that's how we grew up, in a sense. Hope you agree.
Yes, thank you for bringing in a little bit of the history, the context, the culture. I think what kind of is coming forward now is like, okay, now we know more a little bit about like the original institution of like kind of like Native American church and the daily lives of actually living more in intention, especially from an indigenous perspective and way of life, of that like ceremony is every day, every moment is ceremony. It's very intentional. It's very thought out of like your whole day is not essentially planned, but you know what you need to do the first morning sunrise, like starts with your morning prayer, right? Like you already know what your rituals and your duties and responsibilities are for that day. So moving forward into kind of modern day, kind of reflecting on the recent ceremony that we held with you. Now that's definitely not in the Native American church style. It wasn't in a teepee, right? And you were also working with 2 other practitioners. Tell me, in your evolution in your work, how did you come to work with these 2 practitioners in particular, and how did your ceremony evolve into what we experienced a couple weeks ago?
And so this idea of providing my own protocols was something that took place over a course of 2 years. And it was me involving my elders, who are roadmen. They're called roadmen. Those who oversee these fireplaces in a peyote setting inside a teepee, they're called roadmen. And I have 2 of them. One's a clan father to me, and another one's a clan grandfather to me. And about maybe 6, maybe 7 years ago, I was in a position where I was thinking about what am I gonna do next? What's my next big thing, right? I lived a life, have a family, did a job, kids are grown, all that kind of stuff. And I said, I need to figure out what my next thing is to do in life. And so I went to a Peyote meeting. I went to a Peyote meeting with my grandfather and my father who were running the meeting. And in that meeting, I was told through the medicine that I was going to have a church. And I went through the whole process like anyone else. Do I want this? Do I want to be in this place? Do I want to be criticized? Do I want to be, the whole Jesus life experience, right? Jesus came and Jesus was preaching. Jesus was doing all of these things, a lot of criticism, a lot of judgment, but he was true to his heart, true to that process. And those of us who are practitioners, you have gone through that experience yourself. Do I really want to offer this modality? Do I ever want to offer this energy? Do I want to offer this? Is it my calling? And do I have the proficiency as a human being to be able to provide that? Not only do I have the proficient, but am I credentialed to do this, right? So all of these modern things that come up, right? So I was going through that process for about 2 years, and rather than me trying to answer it, my grandfather and my father got together and they helped me formalize what is now called Peyote. And Peyote became the foundation for my life coaching, for my medicine work, and it's become the foundation for how I design the ceremony that you participated in. And so part of that process was to make sure that they contribute to the process, made sure that I was in compliance with the religious aspects of this process, and making sure that I'm not decolonializing or colonializing the process, right? Still staying modern, but not getting into elements of say, criticizing or judging other cultures, making sure that there's certain protocols in terms of how the medicine is being served, making sure that the medicine is accommodating to non-natives. That was the big question. You're going to be doing this, and what they found out in that ceremony that I was having, they told me that this is what you're going to do. So they were given, through the medicine, they were given the authority to help me to do this. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it. They felt like this was something that was important, knowing that there's this coming of a need, that humanity is coming to get some kind of answer, and that we had to come up with something to offer humanity for what needs to be healed, right? So that's how that came up. And so they helped me with all the protocols. Then they said that you're not going to teach NAC, you're not going to teach the Navajo way, you're going to do an integrative approach. And the other thing that helped set the foundation for that was my kids, their mothers are English, Irish, and German. And so in Navajo tradition, it's the man's responsibility to bring the spiritual teachings into the home, and it's that responsibility that he has to maintain. And so that gave me the authority, since all of you are related to my kids, you're all my in-laws. Okay? You're all my in-laws. I have to behave. You guys are all my in-laws to my kids through that relationship and clanship. And so that's what they said, is you're going to have to create the modality, you're going to have to create the ceremony, the protocols, the rules, how the medicines are going to be served, what song to sing, how to sing it, what time of the day, what time of the night. You're going to be responsible for all of that, and that's going to be the ceremony that you're going to offer to your family, which is humanity, through my kids. So I have that responsibility, which goes back to what I said earlier. At some point in time, you're going to be a medicine person. You're going to be a Hakathi. In my mind, I thought I was just going to do that for my family. But this ceremony has brought me to a position where now I'm the medicine person for humanity. So I've reached that point through this ceremony. And so I've been in that capacity, in my mind and in my heart, have been following the medicine to allow for me to serve in that position. So that's how it kind of all came together. And so that's how the protocols were designed.
I love that because it really kind of takes me into the next question, or something that you shared during ceremony where you were explaining to us, of course, that there's like over 300 medicine way ceremonies, like cactus way, wind way, snake way, there's just lots of medicine way ceremonies. But for our particular ceremony, there were 3 songs that you were using in that ceremony. Which 3 songs were those, and why those 3 songs in particular?
So the integration, the protocols come on the Navajo side. So this ceremonial process that I created, Bejajona, comes from 3 areas. One is Navajo philosophy and tradition, which is we call Shanave, Pikapajon, Sa'anave, Pikapajon. Sa'anave means protection. Sa'anave. Pikapajon means beauty way. So there's a theology and a practice here, a philosophy, that there's these 2 things coming together to create one perspective. Protection way, in modern terms, in the terms of today's vocabulary when it comes to modalities, is what we call the masculine way. So protection, masculine. And then we have beauty way, which is the feminine. And then those of us who are in life coaching, protection way, masculine, is the shadow work. Do the shadow work to find and face who you are, which is approaching the traumas, approaching challenges that you're having in life. And then the beauty way feminine is what we call expansion or enlightenment, which is the beautiful side of things. So to put it in a context that you guys will understand, that's how we see Shanage Bikafajon in that context. So that's one pillar. Another pillar is the life coaching protocols that I've been certified in, which is the integral theory, which is Ken Wilber's teaching out of Colorado. And Ken Wilber took integral theory and created 2 modalities out of that, which is integral recovery for substance abuse. And I am certified in that, so I do teach in recovery centers. And then there's a 3rd one that he put out called integral spirituality, which our church is foundational to that. So that's the 2nd component that comes into this process. And then the final and 3rd one is looking at Native American church. It's not just Native American church here in America, it's going back to where the medicine came from, which is what we call the Huiraricas or the Huacholis in Mexico. And it even goes even further than that. Through them, it goes to the Mayan and the Aztecs. So the 3rd part of it is where the medicine comes from. So part of that is bringing those traditions into this process. So it's made out of 3. So the 3 songs that I sang were based on recognizing these 3 cultures, or 3 ways of how the medicine has come to us. So those were the 3 songs.
What was the 3rd song?
And so there's the beauty way, there's the protection way, and then there's the coming of age ceremony.
Oh, that was the song.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, how we see those 3 lineages in Navajo traditions, if we were to put those 3 in Navajo lineage, there's a protection way song. There's a certain way of how we sing a protection way song. Let's talk to the Zen. So we sing that song. And then there's a time where the men and women come of age. The girls and the boys become a man and a woman. And there's a very specific song that they sing in there. There's a number of songs, but it's called a coming of age ceremony. And so we offer that at midnight, which is over the water. So when Dana was offering the water, there was a song I sang before she sat down, right? So that's the coming of age at midnight. That's the change in consciousness in terms of the ceremony. So the first half of the night, we're praying, shadow work, protection away, masculine, cleaning out our bodies, the medicine is cleaning us out. We're going through that whole process. And then a little after midnight, there's a shift in the day. It's no longer that day, it's a new day. So there's a conscious shift where we bring the water in, which is the coming of age. So consciously, we're going from our old way of being and getting ready to go into the new way of being, right? So that's where the water comes in, a coming of age, a coming to a reality of who you are. Then the rest of the night, which we call dream time, is the beauty way ceremony. So then we sang beauty way songs, all beautiful ways in terms of your consciousness. As you're laying down and sleeping, we're singing beauty way songs. So that's how those came together.
Yes, okay, now I see a little bit more of the intention between those three prayers, especially as you're talking about the movement of time or cycles of life, even as it's represented throughout the day and time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to put the night ceremony in the context of a lifespan, the first half of your life, you are learning how to be a human being, right? The protection way, you learn how to protect yourself. So from the time that you're born to the time you're coming of age, within that time, people are teaching you lessons. Lessons are ways to protect yourself. Okay, I understand that's the right thing to do, that's the wrong thing to do, this is how you sing that song, this is how you ask for a prayer, this is how you're supposed to pray, this is how you're supposed to gather materials, this is how you're not supposed to gather. So you're learning how to be a human being, right? Protection, learning how to protect. Once you become a man and once you become a woman, now you have to protect. Now you're engaging in that practice.
The role shifts.
Yep, now you're doing
Responsible.
Yes, now you're
accountable.
offering the protection and creating the protection in your life. Education, a job, relationship, kids, a household, right? All of those are practices of how we're protecting our medicine, right? And then there's a certain time where your conscious shifts. Then you go into what we call the beauty way. Somewhere along like 50s and 60s, there's a shift in consciousness and life becomes beautiful. There's a shift in your body, there's a shift in a way where things don't necessarily have to be hard anymore, right? There's a knowing, there's a sense of knowing, and so you fall into the beauty way, right? So the way that the ceremony is structured is the first half of the night, we're cleaning, we're working, we're doing the shadow work, we're doing everything. We have the water ceremony, and then you do the beauty way ceremony the rest of the night. When you wake up in the morning and go greet the sun, you then become a medicine person in that one night experience.
Is that like becoming a holy being that
Yeah.
morning?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because-
That's what I felt. I felt that morning. Yeah, as we were all standing out, catching that first morning sun rays. We were
Yeah.
all standing out there. It was beautiful. Yeah, now I can really see and experience, even somatically, what you're talking about in reference to the cycles of life and the reference to the cycles of our consciousness and growth. Yes.
Yeah, so what happens is after you leave the property, the medicine is still working for you, right?
Oh,
Still
yes.
working on you. So now you're a medicine person. So the energetics that you're having with the medicine, the consciousness that you're having with the medicine, now you're more intentional because you prayed all night about it.
Yes.
Right?
It makes so much sense.
So now you leave the property and then it's like, oh my gosh, I see this, I see that,
Yep.
wow, this
Yep.
shift,
That's
this is
exactly
changing.
what happened.
So now
Yes.
you're an embodiment of a medicine person.
I definitely felt more holy for like the next 48 hours. The amount of awarenesses, my heart expansion was just beautiful and soft and sweet. And yes, and I reflected on, you're right, there was a lot of shadow work that first half of the ceremony. I may not have known that I was in the medicine because it's really kind of gentle and subtle. But as the morning came, that next morning when we were in dream time, that's when the medicine was showing me my shadow work from earlier that night. Judgment, criticism, like the whole gamut of my psyche came into focus that morning. Actually, I purged in the morning. I wasn't purging earlier in the day, but that's when I was clearing out space to receive those messages in the morning of my actual shadow work from the night before. So thank you for helping me to integrate a little bit more.
Yeah. So from a clinical standpoint, when the morning happens and you're walking away from the property, you know, you're done with the ceremony, you're integrating and you're doing everyday life, the neuroplasticity starts happening because now you are actually probably making different decisions than you were the day before. You're more intentional in your actions. You're more intentional in what it is that you're doing. So the neuroplasticity is starting to work to reframe the mind, reframe
Absolutely.
the context of who you are, what
Yes.
you're doing, and there's a growth pattern that is happening.
Not even that. My experience when I walked away, literally leaving the property on the way home, was just crazy downloads. But what happened for me over the next 24, 48 hours was this eagle's eye view. I was getting a third person perspective of me in my presence, in my body language, and my interaction with people. Like, I could see myself in that moment and how I was engaging with myself and my environment was very beautiful. It was very kind of slow, and I could almost in the moment, what I felt like was like I had freedom. I had freedom in the moment to be able to see myself and to choose how I was going to show up or how I was showing up. It was very beautiful and just subtle and gentle in that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, walk in beauty, right?
Yeah.
So in Navajo traditions, there's a way that we end prayer. Wajona hasli. In English, that means it's become beautiful again. It's become beautiful again. So the circadian rhythms of your body, the muscle tissues, the joints, your nervous system, everything has shifted into this whole new being. So therefore you've become beautiful again. So therefore you're walking in beauty in the context of a new identity and a new thing. So what happens in that night is that there's an acceleration of your being, physiologically, emotional, mentally, chemical-wise. Everything is shifting. So now when you leave the property, you are in this newness. So now you have a place where you can start making this decision, and that's where the neuroplasticity starts happening.
Yeah.
Then you're picking up things really easy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you're also very sensitive.
Yes.
So when you go into the grocery stores, the noise is going to be very overwhelming, right?
Mhm.
Because your accelerated sensibility is a lot higher, right?
Yes.
So you're going to be very sensitive to certain things, but you're also going to be learning and picking up things a little bit quicker.
Yes. Yes. I love that because that kind of brings in a little bit of like post-care after ceremonies, right? Like staying in that ceremonial space, not jumping into the mundane too quickly, not getting on the computer or into these hard conversations, like really staying, for me, kind of in that cocoon for a good 24, 48 hours is really beautiful work. I think it's a really great space for us to really try and stay and holding on to the medicine as long as we can.
Yeah. So the reason why this ceremony was a little bit different, and I think the other reason why my grandfather and dad wanted me to do this is because, one, they felt like humanity needed to heal. There's a way that they need to access this particular medicine. And the other thing too is, if we sat in a teepee ceremony in a Native American church, people would be walking away with hurt backs, not knowing how to process, not knowing what's going on, and they don't even know what to expect. Right? So that culture of the teepee ceremony is not accommodating to the culture of humanity in general. So we have to use the medicine differently and use different approaches, protocols, and techniques so that people can receive what you call the downloads and the experiences and process things, right?
Yeah, actually, thank you. That takes me into a very amazing topic that you mentioned that night in ceremony, and that is, what was it you described? Oh, walking before the medicine. I think that's a little bit, you mentioned it even earlier this evening too. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what you mean by that and how we can learn from this experience? Yeah.
So my grandmother taught us, she always would tell us, Azegi to Dachilwata. Azegi means the medicine way or the way of the medicine. Azegi to Dachilwata. Don't get in front of the medicine. Don't get in the way of the medicine. And medicine could metaphorically mean anything. It could mean your job, it could mean your education, it could mean your relationship, your marriage, it could be your kids. Those of you who are into the Tony Robbins, it could be the Tony Robbins, it could be Eckhart Tolle, it could be whatever it is. There's a sense of development that's happening in front of you. It's a medicine. Medicine is equal to intelligence for us. Medicine is equal to intelligence. There's an intelligence in this thing that you're pursuing. And this intelligence is something that you're going to absorb into your body. Now, how it's delivered can be delivered in any way, right? Like I just mentioned, it could be a ceremony, it could be your education, it could be a music, it could be your guitar, it could be whatever, right? It could be a shadow work book that you downloaded from the internet, whatever. There's medicine here, there's an intelligence that has some sense of form, and your body's gonna align to it. So the idea here is not to get in front of that there is a process that you have to let that medicine discover who you are. There may be an intention and a goal that we have to get out of the experience, but that's not something that we hook onto and stay on. So how does this happen? People can go to a ceremony, ayahuasca, whatever, psilocybin, Huachuma, even rapé, just in that small moment. I have an intention, I'm going to receive this, and I'm going to get to that intention. That's my only solution, and that's the only thing that I'm looking for. I take the medicine, and I don't have the experience, right? This doesn't work. Why am I doing this? I spent all of this money, I spent all of this time to do this, and I didn't get what I want, getting in front of the medicine, right? So another way to describe it is looking at my in-laws in terms of your traditions, Christ consciousness, right? European traditions, which is the biblical teachings. There is a moment where this idea of not getting in front of the medicine or let the medicine guide you is through the birth of Jesus Christ, right? There's God, the divinity, there's energy, there's source, it's non-tangible, it's the divine existence of all the creation, God coming to a human being, Mary, going into a partnership to produce or birth into what is Jesus Christ. So when that was happening, Mary didn't say, okay, let's sign a prenuptial, this is going to happen, this is what I want, this is what's going to happen, I don't want to do this, why pick me? She didn't say that, right? She said, yes, I'm going to have a divine union and partnership to go through this process, and I'm going to produce an outcome. Jesus is the outcome of the intention of you going into partnership with the medicine. I'm coming in partnership with the medicine to create an outcome of what it is that's going to best serve me, in this case, Jesus. Jesus being your intention of how it's going to come out, right? Your morals, your ethics, and values. So when you take the medicine, you don't get in front of it, right? You don't get in front of it and try to dictate and get what it is that you want. Because if you get in front of that medicine, it's going to only magnify your disappointment. Because if you're going through the medicine and you reach a higher sense of consciousness, anger is here, upset is here. When you're on your medicine, your consciousness is up here, anger is now 5 times, 100 times multiplied. And you're leaving the ceremony saying, what the fuck, right? It didn't work. F this, F that. Your anger has only increased. And so therefore, that's the energy you're putting out, and that's the way you're walking in beauty. So now the medicine is doing what it's doing. So at that point, your medicine is saying, okay, Ron, you want to get in front of me? I'll let you take the lead.
Right.
I'll follow you. I'll support you. I'll be in your back, and whatever attitude that you want to have, I'll just be here to support you. That's getting in front of the medicine. That's kind of like the experience.
Yeah. I think there's so many ways that we could probably keep breaking that down, but I just wanted to plant a seed for everyone and what that might look like for you in your own life. Not just actual like medicine work, but how is it that we get in the way of ourselves? You know, how are we tripping ourselves up? The overanalyzing, the overthinking. I also like the bargaining. You know, hey, I've done a lot of that even in the medicine. I'll do this. Okay, not next time, you know.
Yeah.
Lastly, I think the last...
Can I just jump in there for a second?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, because I'm guessing there's probably a few people in this room that have done that or have felt like that might have resonated with what you just said. Like, fuck, I've been there. Like,
Yeah.
Any recommendations on, like, because obviously you can't go back and read, what's happened. We're okay. So if we got in front of the medicine, we did. But like now what? Like, what do you do if that happens? How do you?
The quickest thing that I would do is get into the shadow work practice. I'm in front of the medicine, I'm experiencing this, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, it's a week after ceremony, nothing's happening to me, all I'm getting is just a bunch of nothing. The psychological piece is to, okay, this is not working. You have to admit that this is not working. Obviously, Ron, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever is happening, you're 2 weeks out, it's not working. You have to have that psychology. And then going back to the 12-step program, I'm accepting myself in this moment, in this time. Something else has got to happen. Something else has got to change. Because what I'm doing in this moment in time, it's not working. So then maybe one technique is to do shadow work. What is it? I have to frame this in a situation of recognizing my behaviors, recognizing what's going on. Then the medicine will slowly come around. The more that you do the shadow work, now you're doing the shadow work, the medicine's with you, right? The neuroplasticity, the rethinking, the reframing, all of that's happening as you go through the shadow work, right? Cognitive behavioral techniques, whatever. Breath work, ice baths, the medicine's with you. You're changing your psychology and your connection to what it is that's happening. At some point in time, the medicine's gonna come in front of you. You're gonna allow the medicine to be in front of you. And that's shadow work. Right? Okay, now I see it different. I'm willing to accept this moment in time that what I was doing wasn't working. It has nothing to do with the medicine. Right? It has nothing to do with how the medicine's affected me. It's everything to do with how I'm walking with the medicine, either behind me, beside me, or in front of me. Right?
And trying to realize that too, right? Like I think sometimes we might think we know where that's at, and we might not always be 100% accurate with our assumption of that.
Yeah. So put it in another context. I leave ceremony 2 weeks away. Do I want the medicine behind me? Do I want to be the same person I was before? Right? Do I want to go back to the old ways? Medicine's right by you. I'm looking to change. I'm looking to adjust. I'm looking to shift. Medicine's in front of you. I'm a completely different person. I'm open to life. I'm open to solutions. I'm open to whatever is in the best interest of me. I have no control over the situation. That's another way to look at it.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So don't get in front of medicine. In other words, don't get in front of yourself. That's all it is. So to everybody's, I guess to your point, these are all of creation out there in terms of its natural form is just to assist us to learn how to be a human being. That's all it is. They're just to assist us to learn how to be a human being, or to be a human being. We get to choose how that is. The medicines are just tools. They're just here to help us. My grandmother said one time, she said, the last species to ever be created was a human being. And she said, don't ever get into the consciousness that you're better than everything else. She said, the reality is you are very pitiful because now you're a human being that has to rely on everything else that was created. You're just pitiful. You're codependent. You're dependent on everything else. Don't get in front of the medicine. Don't get in front of yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, thank you. I just have kind of just one last topic because I want to kind of keep it from last Monday, the Trikuna talk. The last thing that was kind of really sitting with me that I feel like I want to keep addressing were the good questions about like, okay, we have these awarenesses about Indigenous ceremonies, medicines, and what does it mean to really have reciprocity, right? Or what does it mean to like give back to these Indigenous communities? Or how can we be in more right alignment and right integrity with Indigenous communities and medicine keepers? And so one thing that I would definitely like to kind of close the circle with really, and then we'll do some question and answers, is I would like to at least honor, and if you can, share a little bit about where you get your medicine from and the importance of working with where you get that medicine from and why.
So we get our medicine from a community in Mexico. There's a couple of communities we work with, and it's specifically with the Huirarica traditions, the Huirarica tribe down there. And right now, in these contemporary times, the Huirarica are the tribal communities who are the protectors of the medicine, who are the gatekeepers of the medicine. They are the ones who are having access to it. It's something that they maintain in their own way. And so they go out and do the pilgrimage to the Holy Land to gather the peyote medicine. So in social culture, in today's time, in contemporary times, all of humanity, government, tribes, and countries look at this particular tribe as the gatekeepers because it's something that they've maintained for centuries. And so what we do is we work with 2 villages where we send a request and then they go out and gather the medicine. There's only one person that touches that medicine before it comes to me. So that tribe goes out, they gather the medicine, they do the prayers, they offer things back to the land, they go through that culture, they bring the medicine back to the village, and depending on how they feel is appropriate for them to prepare it could be in a powder, it could be dry chips, it could be just flesh itself, and then they would send that up to us. And it comes to us, it comes to me directly, so there's no one else other than me and that person that handles the medicine. And then we serve the medicine at the ceremony. So preservation is really important, that in that we have to make sure that we get that lineage representation, and I think it's really important because it's just human being. It's just a human being to do that if you're gonna go do something to ask of the earth, right? I wanna take something from the earth. I wanna receive something from the earth with the understanding that there's a reciprocity, that what I receive is something I'm gonna give back. It's just human nature. Like there's a really good word for that. It's called love. It's really simple, love. So we honor them in that because whoever's collecting that medicine, there's a consciousness that's associated with it. There's a consciousness that's energetically going to be taken in terms of that medicine. Now you have to think, somebody taught that person that song. Somebody else taught that person that song. Somebody else before them taught them that song, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. So now we're accessing all of that energetics to this one person receiving the medicine. So we're receiving that too in that process. And they know how to take care of the medicine. So when you do take the medicine, there's a certain way you have to cut it because it's a very delicate plant. And if you don't take it off right, it's going to kill the root and then there's nothing to grow back. So now there's that preservation. So they're the ones who know how to do it. So they cut it just right. And then they'll have something left. Because we're taking from their land. So there has to be something left back. So there's that context. And so what we've done in the church is we have an endowment that we allow monies to be raised by, we do fundraisers, there are different ways that we raise money. And we support that family because it costs a lot from where they're from to go to the medicine grounds. It takes a lot of gas, a lot of road tolls. It takes time away from them in terms of their wages. And so we help support them financially so that they have the means to go and do that and then come back and be able to prepare what it is that needs to prepare. So we have that piece. And then they welcome us to where we have a whole retreat dedicated to us going down there during the harvest time. So we have fellowships, our congregation, people go down and they participate in that process. So in that process, they're teaching them how to pray in the pilgrimage. How do you pray? How do you collect the medicine? How are you reverent during this time? Here are the indigenous ways to do these things, right? So they're teaching people how to do that, which then instills in the people that this is something that they need to preserve, right? So when they come back to the United States or when they go home somewhere, wherever home is, they have that embodied connection to that. And so they can then continue to preserve that. That's what, like I said, that's love. That's as simple as you can put it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, because I think that's part of where I feel like I come into this community is hopefully offering opportunities to keep educating around how can we keep giving back to Indigenous communities that have been holding these medicines for us for thousands of years, for us to kind of get back into right relationship with ourselves. And so any way that I know we can keep honoring where these medicines are coming from the keepers that have been holding these medicines for so long for us and our own healing, that this is just an ongoing conversation, and us asking questions too from our own facilitators. Where are we getting our medicine from? Is it being ethically sourced? Are we giving back to those Indigenous communities where these medicines are coming from? That includes Huachuma and even our psilocybin mushrooms. Are we giving back? How are they being prayed over and handled? All these things I think we should be really taking into consideration, including some of our man-made medicines, like what kind of energetic imprints are being encoded in those medicines. Those medicine producers, what are they thinking? What energy are they holding as they're making these medicines that we're consuming? I think all of that is relevant in getting imprinted and coded on all the medicines that we're using. So again, just thinking about education, how we can keep giving back. And before we close for any Q&A, Ron, do you have any announcements of any upcoming ceremonies, activities? I know you've been doing Sweat Lodge lately too that we've been real interested in, so please share with us what you've got going on.
So there's a number of things that we're doing. We have a couple of peyote ceremonies coming up. There's one in June, which is like you experienced. There's going to be a 2-night ceremony, one offered one night and another one on another night. So people will have an option of going one night, either a Friday night or a Saturday night. We also have an option where people can actually go for both nights, so they can sit both nights. So that's coming up in June, and then in the first part of November, they're in season for the ceremony, so we're going to take a group of people down there, and we're going to stay with them for a week. We're going to be on the rancho doing work. So how they deal with the medicine down there is they work on the medicine. Like they take the medicine and they go out and go to work. So what they do there is during the seasons is the men go out into the fields to prepare the fields for the next growth season. So you're out there with a machete and you're chopping down a bunch of stuff, you're on the medicine, and you keep taking the medicine all day, chopping the medicine. And then the women are back at the rancheria cleaning and organizing and get everything. Then at the end of the day, we all come back and then we have more medicine and we have prayers and songs and they dance all night. And then at a certain time of the day, we all go to sleep and we repeat it over and over again. Okay. And so that's what we're gonna be offering in November. And there's hot springs down there called Meraki who wants to host us too as well. So we have that. And then we have a Sweat Lodge workshop coming up in 3 weeks. That's going to help facilitate you guys' lodge. So this is going to be a 2-day experience. People can register for it. We're going to talk about how to build a sweat lodge, what's the principles behind it. You're going to actually go out. We're going to go to a gathering site. You're going to help harvest and clean off the branches. You're going to offer, how do I offer, to the land? We're going to teach you how to offer to the land, how to pray. And then we're also going to clean the riverbed. We're going to do trash pickup along there as a way of cleaning that whole area. And then at the end of that second day, we're going to go into a sweat lodge and we're going to dedicate the sweat lodge. So that's coming up. And then we have pilgrimage. We call it Keya. So what that is, it's a meditative medicine journey. So we're going to start off, it's a 6-hour experience. You're going to start at a base camp. You're going to take the medicine. Then we're going to hike to a destination while we're on the medicine. Sit back into the canyon, sit back into a mountain, be more with the medicine there, and then hike back out at night, and then we're done. And so we have like 6 of those coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the best way for us is to...
There's a piece of paper here
okay.
that says name and email.
Okay.
If
come
you're
on
interested,
up. Come sign up.
I'll leave that there.
Okay.
Also, Ron, email me the link too, and we can maybe post
Yeah.
it or something as well.
Yeah.
Put your name in here, and then we'll add you to our list. Everything that we're doing, when it comes to the psychedelics, all the ceremonies, you're going to have to go through an interview process. Everybody goes through an interview process. And don't be surprised if you're not asked to be in that ceremony. You know, there's certain protocols and processes that we have to adhere to. Not everybody who comes to register for the ceremony, not everybody is accepted.
Allowed or
Is
approved.
accepted.
Sure.
There might be something that we think that they need to work on to then come back again.
Yeah.
And then even through the interview process, a lot of them will say, "Holy cow, I got my answer. I don't need to come." You know, that's more
Yeah.
of that experience.
Yeah.
But there are very few where we say, you know, just maybe try next time, but this is what you need to work on, or here's some things that you can think about. So that's the intake process that
Yeah,
we have.
I do like that. I do like letting people know ahead of time that not everybody is ready for ceremony, even though they think they are, because they're a little ahead of the medicine. They're not quite ready for it. It might be side by side at the moment, so we got to work on getting that medicine ahead of you a little bit first.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. While we're passing that around, we'll open up the floor just to some Q&A for Ron, if anybody has any questions for him this evening.
I'll give you this one.
Okay, sounds good.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talked about the erotica tradition, and there was 2 individuals who had come up
Yeah.
and joined us. Were they maybe
Yeah.
share about that and how they
So
sang?
that's
And so that was really beautiful.
Yeah, that's the family we work with. And one of the sisters lives here in Phoenix, and they're online. They're called Mexica Collective is what they're called, the online Instagram. But this particular sister lives here in Phoenix. She goes back down to Mexico from the village. The village that we work with is called Taimarita, is the name of the village, name of the rancho. So she does come to our ceremonies. We try to have a re-radica present at all of our ceremonies in terms of the peyote medicine. We try. In this case, she happened to be available, her and her daughter, and so they came to the ceremony. And there are times where they actually serve the medicine. You know, they'll actually offer to serve the medicine in one of the rounds. They'll serve in that capacity. But yeah, that's another way as a church we're trying to maintain that integrity, that they can witness what it is that we're doing, because they brought the medicine up, and they need to be able to see in their own way that this medicine is being used in the way that it's needing to be used.
It was really cool having them present there because they shared some of the songs and then also some of their like ways of, you mentioned that they work with it differently, but it's a daytime thing and they're doing it, so they got to share some of their perspectives around it, and it was a very interesting addition to the ceremony, I thought. So
Yeah, and they also brought their jewelry. So you guys purchased the jewelry. That money that they made goes all the way back to Mexico.
Talk about
So that's the other way that
reciprocity.
that's the other way we support them. Yeah.
We have a question back here, yes?
Hi, thanks. You kind of started getting into it a little bit. I was curious if there's any indication as to when one would be ready for a ceremony.
Well, one of the things that we have to do as a church is to maintain certain protocols. And those of you who have done medicine work before, in terms of now, there are certain things that we have to adhere to. One of the protocols is liability, right? So people coming to medicine, you have to do an intake where you're talking about SSRIs, how long you've been on it, things of that nature. What is your spiritual practice? Are you out of recovery, substance abuse recovery? How long? These are all the kinds of things that we look at to determine if you're in a position to come. Now, in the event that you don't meet our protocols, we don't just say no and you walk away. In that interview session, we at least identify 2 or 3 things that you could potentially work on, so that you can probably come back and do another opportunity with us. The other thing that we do is we recommend. There might be other practitioners who would be open to having you at their campfire, right? So we may know of individuals who could provide that. And then we don't want to just turn you away and just say no. We want to give you as many options. It's just certain things that we have to follow through underneath our church that we're adhering to in terms of policies and procedures, so that we can not only meet those expectations as compliance, but we also have to meet the protocols from a cultural perspective. So those are two things that we weave back and forth. Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of bring in like the Buddhist perspective a little bit on this, because I think here's why I don't really go in for religion in general in any form, but all of them seem to try to do the same thing, which is to bring us together, right? And that's kind of the goal. So in the Buddhist teaching is, to get rid of attachment. It's about the ego getting out of the way, just like you said, don't get in front of the medicine. It's the same general idea, is that you have to be willing to accept whatever comes, and then you can grow. Whatever that lesson is that you get from the medicine, you can integrate it into your life and come out in a better position. So whether it's Christ consciousness or all the stuff they do with the Native American church, which I'm a member of the Native American church myself, but I think it's important to just remember to let go. You have to let go, otherwise you'll never reach a higher level of vibration.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a question or if that was a
No,
question.
just a statement. I just appreciated where you came from, and I just said there's more. Like every
Yes.
perspective of
Yes.
religion has that in it somewhere. You just have to parse
Yes.
it out.
So how I'm hearing it from a Navajo culture tradition, how I'm hearing it is this: attachment is real. It's a fundamental thing that human beings do. We are always attaching ourselves to something.
Right.
It's fundamental. In Maslow's hierarchies of needs, the basic needs of water, shelter, one of those basic needs is connection. So another word for attachment is connection. We're social beings. It's just naturally going to happen,
Yes.
right? So that's one, and for us, we're always attaching. Are you going to get rid of attachment? In the context, no. But in the context of I'm attached to these negative things, I got to disassociate, I got to unattach. In that context, yes. But we are natural human beings, we attach ourselves to something. When we say ego, in Navajo traditions, when we say, in contemporary words, they say let go of the ego or release the ego, or what you were saying. In Navajo traditions, there's no such thing. You are ego. You're 100% ego, and you're never going to let that go. It's just the intention of where you consciously direct that ego. Another word for ego in Navajo tradition is spirit, intuition, your inner child. That's ego. You're never going to get rid of that. It's just the intention and the condition and the habits that you create that will direct that energy to what it is that you're producing. So that's how we look at it.
It more relates to expectation, right? We don't want to hold on to some expectation, because that's what's messing it up for us. If you have an expectation of your ceremony, you are getting in the medicine's way, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yep.
Who's next?
I'm sorry if you already said this, I might have missed it, but I was just curious, like what age you first sat with the medicine at, and what's typical within Native American culture?
My kids were born into it. I gave them the medicine when I first went into the church. They were like several months old. Just put a little tea on their mouth. Yeah. I started when I was maybe like my early teens, probably like 9, 12-ish, somewhere around there, 9, 10-ish, somewhere around there. Yeah, that's when I went to when I got the medicine. But I was always around it. Like, we're always putting up the teepee poles, we're always making the food and all of that kind of stuff. So you can learn all of those things without taking the medicine, right? So.
There was another question.
It sounds like there's a lot of, in a way, ego death involved, or sort of like so you mentioned letting things go, and I know attachment is very difficult to overcome in life. And you mentioned codependency as well, and I understand all too loud in recovery now for those issues. But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting talking about attachment and how we're born with it and everything, and connection and spirituality. So, just some observations. I mean, I don't think I would have a question right now, unfortunately. But thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I come across it a little bit differently, and a lot of people don't agree with what I say about what we just mentioned. You're always going to be attaching to something. The more that you can accept that you're attaching or connecting to somebody or to something, that's your superpower. Your power is in the attachment. It's in the association. The consciousness and the choice is, what am I going to attach myself? How am I going to connect with people? It's just your natural instinct as a human being. In other words, it's free will. It's another word that they use. Another word for attachment and ego is free will. So what I tell people is, just know that you're going to attach yourself to something. The more that you can come to that realization, the more that you can control what it is that you're going to choose to attach yourself to, rather than fighting the concept that I have to not attach myself to something. So you're having a negative loop. I don't want to attach, I don't want to attach, I got to go through the ego death. You're concentrating on letting that thing go in that context, but really you're just reinforcing the fact that you're being attached to that negative thing. Does it make sense?
Yes, 100%.
So rather than trying to contemplate and fight yourself on not letting things go, and I got to have an ego death, I'm going to attach myself to something that is good, that is healthy. It's in my nature, and I have the free will and the consciousness to be able to do this with whatever medicine you're attaching yourself to, right? Ego is what makes you completely different and unique from everybody else. You don't want to let that go. That's your spirit. You can direct that ego, you can direct that energy to something that's going to be in the beauty of who you are, right? So that's kind of how I look at it.
Absolutely.
I wanted to kind of double click on what Caleb had brought up earlier about maybe how people in here, if they're considering maybe sitting with Peyote, this might be a first conversations people have had, or at least in this amount of depth. What kind of recommendations could you give for some people in this room to say, am I ready? Even beyond, okay, I'm not taking SSRIs, and we passed all the gating points, right? But just from a spiritual, mental, personal standpoint, what would be kind of some ways people could evaluate that for themselves?
I think it's with any medicine. The more that you can tap into your heart space, and the more that you feel like you're making an intuitive yes, so that's a process anybody can go through, and it's different for everybody. But if you feel and you have a deeper understanding, like this is an intuitive yes, I'm going to do this, then you're starting out of the gate in a good way, because that's going to fuel your whole process of which medicine or which way that you're going to go. Now, if you're saying, wow, I would like to try that, then you're coming from what we call get in front of the medicine and speak, or it may be for recreational purposes, or I've never tried that, I'm going to go ahead and try it again. Right? I'm going to try it just for the fun of it. I'm going to try it because everybody's talking about it. If everybody's talking about it, then that's the medicine that you're going to get from it. That's the healing that you're going to get from it, right? So you just got to be cautious about what it is that you're doing. So the thing that I tell people is, and this is part of the questioning process, this is how we determine if this is something that we can facilitate for people. One of the questions is, what's the intuition, or what is it that brought you to this experience? What's the motivation behind this, right? And then we listen, right? So if you have a deep yes, and your heart is saying yes, and you have an intuitive response, yes, then the medicine will find you. The technique will find you, right? It'll come to you. It may not be through us, but there's a potential it may come from somebody else. So that's the second thing. Don't get distracted. Don't get upset that you don't get what it is that you want. Just follow that intuition, follow that process. Not everybody who comes to our church is an intuitive yes, right? You may go to another church, you may go to another process, and it's an intuitive yes over there for you. Right? So that would be the first thing. That's also something in terms of what we call good judgment, making a good judgment. So there's things that we want to do, there's things that we need to do. When you're coming from a place of need, I have to have this, it's gotta happen. You're coming from a survival mentality, which is not intuition, right? It's not your highest self. I gotta have this, I need to survive. I want to do this sounds fun, this sounds good, I think this is the next thing that I want to do. Then you're gonna get that experience. But if you're going from an intuitive sense of saying, yes, this is a calling, this is something that is calling me, my soul is speaking to this, and then I'm gonna make a judgment to do this, right? It's a self-realization, right? It's a self-actualization. When it comes from intuition, you're self-actualizing that experience into reality. You're praying that existence into reality, is what you're doing. So that's the only thing I can say.
Beautiful, love it. Maybe one or two more if no one's got any more, or? Yeah, maybe we'll wrap.
So if I'm interested in doing this, is it something that I have to wait until you contact me?
There's an email that's going around. There's a piece of paper.
Right. So I put my name and my email there.
I'm gonna, if you put your email and your name on there, what you're saying is, yes, please contact me.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put you to our email list, and the next time that we have an event or a ceremony, you're gonna receive that email, okay? Everybody's welcome to come. It's the interview process and the protocols that we follow that will determine if you're going to be a candidate for that particular ceremony, okay? So how that works is, whoever's praying down there collecting the medicine, that's the energy that's gonna determine who comes to the ceremony. Comes to me, I'm saying the prayers, I'm talking to the medicine. There's another element that will determine what will or who will come. Then there's the interview process, there's the surveys and the question. So there's layers of how a person is selected through this process. Make sense? It's not just us saying yes. There are many, many checks and balances, energetic checks and balances, spiritual checks and balances that go into this process of who is going to come to ceremony. That's how you get to be received. I would rather be received if somebody had all of these checks and balances, and if somebody's picking the medicine, had me in mind and spoke that, and intuitively I manifested in that process. I would rather have that happen for me, rather than somebody say, how much you have, come to the door, we're ready to go, don't worry about it, come and sit at my campfire. Make sense? Yeah. So right now, your email list is going around, that sheet. You're gonna all get the notice, but you just have to go through the protocols. I did it. You know, growing up, there was places where they said, nope, get out of here. It's not for you. You're not ready yet. I've been there. But I want to learn that song. Nope. Go play. Get out of here. It's not ready for you, right? We've all been through that. Right?
So what you're saying is that depending who handles the medicine and the energy that they impart to it could be a determining factor on whether this could be the right time for
It's not the determining factor, it's part of the process.
Okay.
We get so stuck on these very specific languaging. I think one of the things that humanity has to understand is that being a human being is a process. And you have to leave yourself open to, you have to be open to the understanding that no, the answer no is just more important than to say yes. That there's more teaching in the no than it is to be accepted, to say yes. humanity needs to understand that. Humanity has to understand that the no is the invitation for a higher realm of thinking and a higher realm of practice, rather than saying, yes, I'm accepted. Make sense? Yeah. That's what I think.
If it's okay, do you mind closing the prayer?
I'm happy to, yeah.
Okay, Ron's gonna do a closing prayer for us, if you'll please indulge us for closing.
So let's all take a deep breath. Everybody inhale, and then exhale. This next breath is for yourself, so take a deep inhale, and then an exhale. Find yourself in your heart space. However you hold your traditions, however you hold practice, however you've been taught to pray, feel free to do that now. Honor your ancestors, honor the people who've taught you how to pray. Be in reverence of their teaching. You're an extension of their teaching. Pajoro le di internet an affinity ha aften shara aften aften to no hokos. Yadis kishka di internet shima astan the ka nes ayat eto donis pajoro le di internet an affinity. Spiritual deities in all four directions, Father Sky and Mother Earth, in this place of sanctuary, aligning our hearts with our minds, our spiritual body with our human body, finding gratitude in this existence, finding gratitude in all the resources that brought us to this moment in time, finding gratitude that our ancestors prayed us into existence, finding gratitude that we have the privilege to pray the next generation into existence. Kut alban saskes kut ashif ayat eto doshish pojono le di internet finiki pojona hasli to the sky I call you father, to the earth I call you mother, to all life in between I call you brother and sister. Collectively, let's do a deep inhale and then an exhale. Collectively repeat after me. Beauty before me,
Beauty before me,
beauty behind me,
beauty behind me,
beauty above and below me.
beauty above and below me.
It has become beautiful again.
It has become beautiful.
It has become beautiful again.
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 I am beautiful again.
I am beautiful again.
Aho, all my relations. Namaste, and so it is.